All right, good afternoon, everyone. Today is July 28th, 2020. This is a special meeting of the members of the State Liquor Authority. Present by video, Commissioner Fan, Commissioner Ford. Chairman Bradley cannot make today's meeting. We have 6 items on the calendar. They're all requests from Council's office for summary suspension orders. The full board staff in attendance is Council Meyerhoff, who's also by video conference, and myself, Secretary to the Authority, Donahue. All right, so the first item, 787 EE, La Agua Catala Lounge, Inc. So I'll turn over to Council's office.
Good afternoon, Commissioners Fan, Commissioner Ford, Senior Attorney Crominal here on behalf of Council's office. This is a request for summary order suspension for La Agua Catala Lounge, Inc., DBA El Abuelo Gozon. This is a licensee with a lengthy disciplinary history with us. Highlights include 2 counts of suffering and permitting prostitution. They paid a $10,000 civil penalty in May of 2018. Count of sale to minor 18 years or under. They paid an $8,000 civil penalty in June of 2018. There's multiple additional convictions in their file with us for sales to minor, noise ordinance violations, employment of unlicensed security guards, and after-hours sales. Turning to the case before us today, July 25th at 11:50 p.m., Investigator Charles Stravale observed approximately 20 patrons standing and sitting while consuming alcoholic beverages at tables and chairs set up in front of the licensed premises on the sidewalk. Of note is the current 11 p.m. curfew in the city of New York for reopening, of which the premises was flagrantly operating in violation of by remaining open and operating at the time in question. Investigator Stravale observed no food on any tables, only drinks being consumed by patrons. No traditional tableside service. He also observed 2 employees, 1 male and 1 female, at the door to the premises not wearing masks. Investigator Stravale observed many individuals who were not exercising proper social distancing or utilizing facial coverings in and amongst the crowd. Upon entering the premises, Investigator Stravale observed 2 patrons, a male and a female, seated at the bar and consuming alcoholic beverages, again without food with them. At the time, the bar owner was observed yelling "closed, closed," which caused the patrons at the bar to exit the premises. Investigator Stravale then observed a manager and an employee not wearing masks, and before he left, he observed a fire extinguisher resting on a bar top not properly affixed to a wall, in likely violation of applicable fire codes. This is a licensee that has a lengthy disciplinary history with us. He should be fully aware of the need to operate a safe and legal premises, and of the need to operate with a high degree of care for the safety of his patrons and for New Yorkers in general. The efforts of the licensee to clear patrons from his licensed premises upon his recognizing that an authority investigator had entered his premises, as well as a failure to require masks of managers and staff during the ongoing pandemic, indicate a complete unwillingness on licensee's part to operate his licensed premises in a safe or legal manner, in the opinion of Council's office. This licensee has repeatedly demonstrated he can't be trusted to operate his premises with any degree of care for the safety of his patrons, let alone concern for the residents of New York in general. As a result, the Office of Counsel hereby requests a summary order suspension be issued for this license. Thank you.
Commissioner Fan, any questions?
Is this establishment residential street?
Commissioner Fan, you're breaking up a little bit. Could you repeat that?
Is this establishment on a residential street?
There are residences there, yes.
Okay.
Anything else, Commissioner Fan?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
All right, then I'm going to call for your vote. Commissioner Fan.
This licensee is counsel. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. As council described, this licensee has committed multiple violations of the governor's executive orders by allowing service without any food, employees to be serving customers with no masks, and breaking and allowing service past 7 p.m. curfew. This licensee has been repeatedly warned and has a long history with the SLA, and so they know the importance in these executive orders. This licensee is clearly disregarding the standing laws relating to COVID pandemic, and it's a waste of our valuable investigative resource as our investigators and our chairman continue to risk their lives to go out to catch these bars and close them down themselves. And due to the imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford, your vote.
I would only add to that crowds congregating within 100 feet of licensed premises. And so with all of that, I will vote to summarily suspend as well.
All right, then, thank you very much. For the next item, 787 FF, Apollo Bar and Restaurant, Inc.
Hi, good afternoon, members. This is Kayla O'Donnell on behalf of Council's office. Council's office is seeking an emergency summary order suspension for licensee El Palo Bar and Restaurant, Inc., as this licensee has repeatedly committed violations of the governor's executive orders. The license was issued on April 14, 2015 to operate a restaurant with beer and wine only in Corona, Queens. Between April 2016 and today, the licensee has been found to have sold alcohol to an intoxicated person, made 2 prohibited hour sales, failed to permit an inspection, had 5 disorderly premises incidents, 2 noise violations, and sold alcohol to a minor on 2 occasions. It's a very serious adverse history for this licensee. Additionally, there are currently 3 pending disciplinary matters against this licensee. Since June 21st, the licensee has been found serving patrons after the mayor's 11 p.m. curfew 5 times. An NLP was sent out for case 144746 after the licensee was found serving patrons alcoholic beverages outside the licensed premises after the 11 p.m. curfew on June 21st and July 1st. The current pleading contains charges for observations made on June 26th, June 27th, and July 18th. On June 26th, the licensee was found to be serving at least 5 patrons alcoholic beverages after the 11 p.m. curfew. The licensee is being charged with violating Executive Orders 202.38, 202.43, as well as failure to supervise in connection with its conduct on this date. On June 27th, the licensee was again found to be serving patrons after the 11 p.m. curfew. The licensee is being charged with violating Executive Orders 202.38, 202.43, as well as failure to supervise in connection with its conduct on this date. And on July 18th, the licensee was again found to be serving patrons after the 11 p.m. curfew. This time, there were at least 30 patrons being served outside the licensed premises after 11 p.m. Many of the patrons were standing while consuming alcoholic beverages. A security guard was observed not to be wearing a face covering as required. The licensee is being charged with violating Executive Orders 202.16, 202.38, 202.43, as well as failure to supervise in connection with its conduct on this date. The licensee's blatant indifference to both the governor's executive orders and the ABCL is disturbing, to say the least. As such, continuing to allow the licensee to operate while the charges are litigated would endanger the health, safety, and welfare of both the inhabitants of the area of the licensed premises, and given the current pandemic, the community as a whole. In consideration of them, immediate action in the form of an emergency order of summary suspension is required. Thank you.
Commissioner Fan, any questions?
I'd actually, Tom, if I could, it's Gary. I'd like to
No,
add.
go ahead.
I'd like to add one thing. One thing I believe, commissioners, you should be aware of, and you may already be aware of this, is that we are often relying on police reports that discuss observations of serving after 11 o'clock at particular locations. Those reports sometimes indicate how many people were standing and congregating and sometimes do not. It was not always the police department's practice to give us that information. So the fact that we have reports on this place that don't count the number of people doesn't mean that this is not a place that hasn't been continuing to do what we observed recently and took pictures of in the past and generally. We are hoping we get more cooperation from the NYPD to give us more detailed information and head counts as we move forward. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
All right, Commissioner Fan, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
No, don't have any questions either.
All right, with that then, I'll turn to you for your vote. Commissioner Fan.
This licensee has committed multiple violations of the governor's executive order as council outlined on at least at least 5 different dates. And for allowing service past curfew, insufficient PPE used by employees, drinking outside in large groups. And this licensee is clearly disregarding this authority and all the existing laws and standing laws surrounding the COVID pandemic. And he's been multiple times, but still continue to serve in this manner in violation of laws. And so due to imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford.
As Commissioner Fan noted, there's 5 different dates of recorded violations, plus other 3 pending disciplinary actions against this licensee. On the outside service after 11 p.m. curfew, no food, open containers. Service inside, at least 2 or 3 times. They were excited for that. Large crowd outside, congregating outside within 100 feet. And 1 police report, they did note that there were over 30 patrons in front past the 11 p.m. curfew. They've been cited several times by the Roosevelt Avenue Task Force for not serving food, maintaining a walk-up bar, and selling beer in open containers to go. Again, it's a problematic location for the 115th precinct, so I vote to summarily suspend.
All right, thank you. The next item, 787GG RT Hospitality Group, LLC.
Good afternoon, members. This is Margarita Marcipo, Council's office. I'm requesting that the members issue a summary order of suspension with regard to Atlantis, located at 93-10 Woodhaven Boulevard, Jamaica, New York. This is a bar tavern. They obtained a license on June 15th of 2019. They're permitted to have dancing, a recorded DJ, 6 employees, and 2 to 3 security guards. This premise started to be observed by Investigator Sterali after he received complaints from the Special Operations Lieutenant in the precinct, which is the 112th precinct. His first visit was on July 1st of 2020. It was not an announced visit. He observed 10 persons, patrons and employees standing in front of the licensed premise without masks or exercising social distancing. Music was playing loudly, and females were serving patrons at the bar window, which is open. It's an open bar window without wearing face masks. He returned on July 2nd at 10:25 p.m. And again, patrons and employees were standing, mingling while not social distancing. There was no table service. There were 2 female employees at the open bar window not wearing face masks. There was, again, loud music playing. He returned the next day, July 3rd, after 11 at 11:35 p.m. So this is the second time that they've been operating beyond 11 p.m. There were patrons and employees standing and not social distancing, and there were no table service. This open bar window was, again, with someone there with an employee with no face mask. There was loud music playing. Investigator Sterali went back on July 10th at about 11:10 p.m. and he found patrons and employees were standing in front of the licensed premise without masks and not exercising social distancing. There was no table service. There was music playing loudly. There were 2 female employees not wearing face masks serving at that open bar window. After that, Investigator Sterali sent Mr. Marco Tempesta, the licensee principal, an email on July 12th In the email, he included a warning that we give to licensees, warning them that all these violations have been forwarded to the SLA for further action. He also gave him a link to his, to the New York Forward Safety Plan on July 12th. And Mr. Tempesta returned this form, this template on July 13th, and in that form, he indicated that he was going to ensure that the patrons wore masks. And that he was gonna make sure, also, he told Investigator Stravali he was gonna make sure they did not operate after 11 p.m. On July 16th, Investigator Stravali went back to the licensed premise at 11:18 p.m. And this time, there were more people than on all the prior occasions. There were 16 patrons standing, lingering in front of the location, and nobody had face masks, and there was still loud music playing. So Mr. Tempesta was, he should have been on notice because we're so late into this horrible pandemic, but we know that he spoke to Investigator Stravali on July 12th, and it looks like he was even, he even had a bigger crowd on July 16th, and he ignored all the advice that was given to him and the warnings that were given to him. So we're requesting that this premises be summarily suspended.
Okay, Commissioner Fan, any questions?
Hey, Margarita, are there any outstanding EO-related charges against this licensee?
No, there are not.
Okay.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
All right, then I'll turn to you for your vote. Commissioner Fan?
This licensee has committed multiple violations of the governor's executive orders at least since July 1st with no food service along with alcohol sales, essentially a loud music blasting onto sidewalks, an open bar onto the sidewalk with not appropriate use of PPE. This licensee has been warned multiple times and in fact told our investigator that he would be in compliance, but instead of having smaller crowds, he continued to have larger and larger crowds as the summer goes on. This license premise is clearly a waste of our agency's valuable investigative resource during this pandemic. This licensee has shown blatant disregard for this authority and standing laws. And due to the imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I vote to summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Ford, your vote.
This licensee has had an issue with patrons congregating with open containers within 100 feet of the premises on 7/1, 7/2, 7/3, 7/10, 4 days. Employees not wearing masks again, and on 7/10, operating past the 11 p.m. curfew. 7/16, continuing to operate past the 11 p.m. curfew. So for all those reasons, plus everything that Commissioner Fan has stated, I vote to summarily suspend.
Thank you. The next item, 787HH, SD Corp.
Good afternoon, Commissioner Fan, Commissioner Ford. I'm William Brennan on behalf of Counsel's Office. I'm here today to request that the board summarily suspend the licensee for blatantly violating Executive Orders 202.3, 202.16, and 202.43. The premises has been issued a license since August of 2019 as a restaurant serving beer, wine, and liquor. There are stipulations including no DJ, no dancing, and no promoters. The licensee, Este Corp, DBA El Otro Rolo, is located at 79-05 Roosevelt Avenue, Jackson Heights, Queens. On July 25th, 2020, Investigator Charles Stravali made an inspection of the licensed premises. The investigator observed at least 20 individuals drinking inside the licensed premises, blatantly violating the governor's Executive Order 202.3 and associated posted NYSLA guidance regarding service inside the premises and/or takeout and delivery service. Investigator Stravali also observed at least 8 patrons of the licensed premises standing and sitting, drinking beverages outside without receiving any food, also blatantly violating the governor's executive order 202.3 and the associated posted NYSLA guidance regarding service inside the premises and/or the takeout and delivery service. While at the licensed premises, Investigator Stravali observed at least 2 employees of the licensed premises who were working without wearing a face mask in violation of the governor's executive order 202.16 and the associated posted NYSLA guidance and the posted NYS DOH guidance regarding face masks. Additionally, many patrons were not socially distancing or wearing masks properly. The investigator reported that some patrons were wearing their masks down around their chin. During his inspection, Investigator Stravali took a number of pictures that included images of the large crowd inside the premises, numerous drinks on tables, and patrons sitting at tables inside with beverages in front of them, as well as patrons standing in the bar unseated. Stravali reported that he observed no food at all being served or on the tables at the premises. The licensee clearly failed to supervise the premises on July 25th, 2020, allowing numerous violations to occur and put the public's health and safety at risk. The pictures that Investigator Stravali took on July 25th, 2020 show a substantial number of people enjoying the bar room, standing around, some with face masks pulled down, no food being served, even though the premises holds a restaurant license. All this as though there is no pandemic. In addition to this action, the licensee has 3 pending police referrals under review by counsel's office. The first referral, dated September 15, 2019, alleges, among other things, that the licensee allows dancing at night, acting as a cabaret of sorts, which would fail to conform with their application at the authority. There were also various other code violations cited. The second referral, dated November 17, 2019, alleges that the premises is allowing dancing and advertises itself as a nightclub, which would not conform to its application to the authority and also would be in violation of its certificate of occupancy, which doesn't permit musical entertainment or dancing. Additionally, the premises advertised free hookahs to patrons when the premises was not a licensed hookah establishment in New York City. The third referral is also related to the operation of the premises as a nightclub, with the promoter encouraging patrons to come and dance. These referrals are currently pending review. The licensee apparently can't follow the restrictions on their license initiated by the authority and the city. It's clear that the licensee showed a blatant disregard for the executive orders and the authority's rules and guidance. In doing so, the licensee put not only their patrons' health and safety at risk, but also put their community and the public at large at risk. This licensee put their own profit over the public's health, safety, and welfare. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the board issue an order imposing an emergency summary suspension in order to protect the public's safety and well-being.
Commissioner Fan, any questions?
Council Brennan, did you mention that they were using DJs during the pandemic?
No,
Or you didn't say that, you
Commissioner
just
Fan,
said dancing.
I'm sorry, I brought that up only to show that there was a lack of conformity following the rules. While those cases have not been adjudicated yet, they show a clear pattern that the licensee is failing to even live up to the rules that were conditioned on the issuance of this license, let alone a worldwide pandemic.
Got it. Okay.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
Counselor, you said they are licensed as a bar tavern. Is that what you said?
No, Commissioner Ford, I'm sorry. I said they're licensed as a restaurant serving beer, wine, and liquor.
Okay. I'm good. Thank you.
All right, then I'll turn to both of you for your votes. Commissioner Fan.
The licensee has committed multiple violations of the governor's executive orders. The pictures that counsel's office have submitted clearly show that multiple patrons inside with buckets of beer in front of them. They're not wearing proper masks and not practicing social distancing. This has a long history with our agency and really should know that it's important to follow these rules. As council mentioned, he has shown a blatant disregard for this authority and standing laws, and due to imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I vote to impose some emergency or summary suspension to protect this licensee's patrons and employees alike.
Commissioner Ford.
They're serving after 11 p.m. curfew with approximately 20 people inside on July 25th. No food was being observed. Employees not wearing masks. Again, patrons congregating outside with open containers within 100 feet of the license. So for those and for other reasons as stated by Commissioner Fan, I vote to summarily suspend.
Thank you. All right, the next item.
Thank you, Commissioner.
787 II Queens OP 1321817 Rancho Tequila Inc.
Yes, Margarita Marcico, presenting, requesting that you issue an emergency order of summary suspension as to this premise. It's operating out of 105-13 Jamaica Avenue, Richmond Hill, New York. Mr. Alana Ali Maya was granted this license on June 29th of 2020. It does not appear that Mr. Maya has had any other licensed premises aside from this one. Less than a month later, Investigator Davis observed inside a bartender serving 3 men without masks, 2 people without masks in the back area drinking. 2 more people came and joined the people in the back. None of the staff members were wearing masks. 8 people in total were at the bar at the end of the visit. The investigator was there for 10 minutes. And clearly no one inside was alarmed. I think the investigator announced himself to the manager, but these people are operating this place as if there's no pandemic going on. So I don't know if it's a lack of experience or what the issue is, but Mr. Maya is presenting an imminent threat to the health, welfare, and safety of his community. He got this license in, well into the pandemic. There's all sorts of information available to him when he got his license, and he's operating it, or whoever's operating it, as if there's no pandemic going on. So we're requesting that you summarily suspend his license.
Commissioner Fan, any questions?
Ms. Marcico, can you tell me again when the license was actually issued?
It was issued on June 29th of 2020.
Wow. Was the licensee actually at the establishment, or we don't know?
There was a woman named Irene Balcazar Asensio who said she was the manager.
Okay. Is she the person who's in these pictures, or we don't really know?
I don't know.
Okay. And was this a full board issued license, or?
That I don't know, Commissioner Vail.
Okay. Are there stipulations on it?
I don't believe so. There's no community board opposition to it.
Okay.
Commissioner Ford, any questions?
No, none at all. Commissioner Fan asked 2 questions I was going to ask. So
All right, then
I'm good.
I'll turn to both of you for your vote. Commissioner Fan?
This licensee really could have chosen to not pick up their license and not open their business during this pandemic. And to pick up your license and then commit multiple violations of the governor's executive orders right away seems to not be a good idea. This licensee has allowed service inside, and there's no PPE being used, no food being served, and it's a clear disregard for just health and safety and what's actually going on in the world. I'm quite shocked by this. So due to imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to impose a summary, to an emergency order of summary suspension to protect this licensee's patrons and employees.
Thank you. Commissioner Ford.
For all those reasons, I'd like to congratulate this particular licensee for the fastest opening and closing that I've ever seen since I've been here. So I vote to summarily suspend.
All right, thank you. We'll be giving out the license to get your award shortly. The next item, 787 Double J, 733 Restaurant Corp.
Dear members, Council's office submits the subject licensee, 733 Restaurant Corp., located at 733 9th Avenue, New York, New York, to members of the authority to consider an emergency order of summary suspension of its retail on-premises liquor license pursuant to Section 4013 of the State Administrative Procedure Act. 733 Restaurant Corp. was issued an OP license on December 5th, 2008, which expires on November 30, 2020. It is licensed to operate as a restaurant with recorded music and security. The sole principal is James Lyons, and the restaurant is in a mixed-use area. Going back to June 22nd of 2020, the New York State Pause Task Force made a visit to the licensed premises at approximately 6:10. While there, investigators observed 3 to 5 patrons standing in front of the licensed premises, lingering in and around the Sidewalk Cafe area that was set up within 100 feet of the licensed premises, and they were consuming alcoholic beverages. None of them were wearing masks. And during that time, the manager was warned that what was happening at the licensed premises was in violation of the governor's executive orders at that time. On July 2nd, an additional visit was made by the New York State Pause Task Force at approximately 5:30 p.m. Again, several patrons were observed standing, lingering in and around the Sidewalk Cafe area within 100 feet of the licensed premises. They were consuming alcoholic beverages. A follow-up visit again was made the next day, July 3rd, approximately 5:45, this time by SLA investigator Jaworski. He visited the licensed premises in an undisclosed capacity. He observed, again, the same thing, several patrons standing, lingering around in the Sidewalk Cafe area within 100 feet of the licensed premises. They were all consuming alcoholic beverages. He did not observe any waiter service for the Sidewalk Cafe area. While there, he went up and purchased an alcoholic beverage, and he was not instructed that he was required to buy food or his takeaway beverage at that time. A notice of pleading was sent out in regards to the first visit on June 22nd. A second notice of pleading was sent out in response to the visits on July 2nd and July 3rd. On July 21st, counsel's office received a not guilty plea from Max Bookman, the attorney for the licensee. So clearly the licensee is very much on notice for the violations that have been happening. However, again, on July 27, 2020, SLA investigator Pardo observed at least 12 patrons congregating and lingering in the Sidewalk Cafe area. She observed many of the patrons consuming alcoholic beverages after 11 p.m., which is the curfew here in New York City for the outside cafe, open restaurant areas. She spoke with the principal, James Lyons, while there. While speaking, with him, he was not wearing a mask, and she also observed several other patrons not wearing masks. Additionally, the licensed premises while she was there was serving alcoholic beverages without food. Because of these 4 visits, the warnings that have been given, both through verbal warnings while the investigators have been there and the notices of pleadings that the licensee has clearly received and responded to, the licensee cannot claim to be unaware of the guidance and regulations related to these executive orders that have been put in place for months. The licensee, and so the executive orders are clearly designed to prevent the spread of a deadly virus. And it's obvious from the disregard of these warnings that the licensee cannot be trusted to follow the law, even when human life so obviously depends on it. There is no more imminent risk to public health, welfare, and safety than to allow such an obvious lawbreaker to continue to operate while these charges are pending. Because of that, Council's office respectfully requests that the members summarily suspend this license.
Commissioner Fan, any questions?
No, I do not have questions.
Commissioner Ford?
I don't have any questions either.
All right, then I'll call for your vote. Commissioner Fan?
This particular licensee has already received 2 notices of pleading related to executive order violations. And so this should not be coming as news to them since they continue to allow improper service during the pandemic, serving past curfew, drinking in large groups outside, not proper use of PPE, and no food related to alcohol sales. This licensee is showing a clear disregard for the authority and standing laws, and due to imminent threat to public health, safety, and welfare, I'm voting to summarily suspend this license.
And Commissioner Ford?
This particular licensee is allowing patrons to congregate with open containers on several occasions within 100 feet of the premises, extending their reach, I suppose you could put it that way. Lack of food service, serving it after 11 p.m. 12 patrons congregating outside, again with open containers, employees and patrons not wearing masks, and obviously failing to exercise proper supervision. So for all those reasons, plus everything that Commissioner Fan stated, I vote to summarily suspend.
All right, thank you. That concludes the items we have on today's calendar. Thank you all for attending, and we'll see you all at tomorrow's regularly scheduled full board meeting.
Can't wait.
Tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.